One of my favorite Christmas cartoons is A Peanuts Christmas, where Charlie Brown and his friends put on a Christmas pageant, and Linus walks out and he stands in front of everyone on the stage and he says, "Behold, behold, I bring you tidings of great joy that shall be to all people." Behold, that word means something grand. When you behold something, you think that it's got to be angels coming from the sky, a gigantic sunset over the Teton mountain range. But what if I told you that you can behold something right in front of you that is tiny every single day? Noticing and beholding actually go together. My wife Heather's grandmother and her uncles lost their home in Altadena during the Eaton wildfires. Now, it was a devastating, devastating week for the entire family. And so Heather and myself, we flew to Southern California so that we could just be with her grandmother and her uncles. And also, along with being with them, we were able to go up to the site of this home that her grandmother had lived in for 40 years. 40 years of her life in this tiny, cute little red home in Altadena, California. And so as we were there, we were just kind of walking around the rubble, walking around the ashes. And you would think there would be nothing to behold in this situation. You would think that there would be nothing that could bring us some sense of wow, some sense of awe, and some sense of wonder. And so as we're digging around, looking for anything, trying to find anything, we realized that the heat from this fire was so intense that it literally eviscerated every single thing. Not any jewelry was left, no coins were left, everything had melted. And so as we're looking around, suddenly Heather looks over and Rick, her uncle, had just said, "Gosh, David just wants to find something that has a skull on it." Something, because David loves skulls, right? Who doesn't? And so we're digging around and suddenly out of the corner of her eye, Heather says, "Hey, look, it's a skull." And there happened to be this little piece, I don't even know what it was, if it was jewelry, if it was art, but it was a skull that was buried in the ashes. Heather noticed the skull. Why? Because she was looking intently for something, for anything in the ashes. And then Rick's exclamation, Rick's reaction was gigantic. "Oh my gosh, David's gonna be so happy." And we had this beholding moment when Heather reached down, she picked up this skull. And who knew that this tiny little skull in the midst of all of these ashes would elicit such a grand response from Rick? We all were jumping up and down. We were all so excited because we looked intently, we were trying to notice something, and when we noticed something tiny, we were able to behold it. I think sometimes we think that beholding only happens, again, when you see a mountain range or a sunset or a whale jumping out of the ocean. But what if I told you that you don't have to find something gigantic to behold? Beholding can be found in the tiniest little things. My wife is a gardener. She's got this garden right outside of our home. And listen, I'm not a gardener, right? Like I don't really like to sweat. I don't like bugs. I don't like itchy stuff. Like I'm not into it. But every single time she invites me out there to harvest, I don't know, a sweet potato or something like that, I learn something new and I start beholding the tiniest little things. Like one of my behold moments in the garden was a little embarrassing to even admit. But I need to let you know that in my late 40s was when I first realized that fruit comes from the inside of a flower. Now, I don't know if you all knew this or if I just missed that lesson in science class, but I was looking at, Heather's like, "Well, look at the strawberries." And I was like, "Babe, there's no strawberries there. There's just a bunch of flowers." She's like, "Look closely at the flower." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Look at the middle." So I got down and I plucked up a little flower and she yelled at me, "Don't pluck the flower. You just ruined the strawberry." I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I looked at this flower really closely and right in the middle of those petals was the tiniest little strawberry, like a little itty bitty baby strawberry. And my jaw dropped and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." I went through the rest of the week telling all my friends, "Did you know that fruit comes from flowers?" I had no idea. And then I started realizing, wait a second, bees and pollinating and flower to flower, this is how it all happens. Can you see that beholding even happens in the tiniest ways? I want you to really start to notice the tiny things around you every single day. I tell my kids all the time, there's 1,000 little miracles you can notice if you're just looking for it. Okay, because here's the thing. If you train yourself to notice, you'll always have something to behold. And if you learn to behold, you'll never run out of wonder. And then you can share that wonder with someone else, which will help them see the world in a little different way. So let's just remember these two words, notice and behold.